there, John Moore here, and I am a shamanic teacher and practitioner from the state of Maine in the US. And today I'm going to hopefully answer the question, or at least produce some more questions around the question, is shamanism New Age, or is shamanism a New Age practice? I'll start I'll start with talking about my teacher. If you were to ask my teacher of shamanism, is shamanism New Age, she would answer, no, it is Old Age. And this is true in one respect, right? This is true in that shamanism has been around at least tens of thousands of years, maybe beyond that. We're now thinking maybe over 100,000 years. And it has existed in all cultures around the world at some point in their history. It is foundational, and it is both a set of beliefs and a set of practices. So yes, it is, we'll hold that aside for a second, and then we'll look at what we mean by the definition New Age. So New Age is one of those terms that nobody agrees on. Nobody agrees exactly what it means. And so you can throw a lot of things into the New Age bucket. Alternate forms of spirituality. Is shamanism an alternate form of spirituality? Because I come from a dominantly Christian culture. I don't know. Because there are other forms of spirituality that we wouldn't consider New Age, even though they're not dominant. Islam is not a dominant religion in this culture, nor is Buddhism, but do we consider them New Age or part of the New Age movement? I don't think I would. So anyway, I'm gonna go to Wikipedia, and I'm gonna read you not too much of what it says, but a little bit. New Age is a range of spiritual or religious practices and beliefs which rapidly grew in the Western world during the 1970s. This is going to be important in a moment. Precise scholarly definitions of New Age differ in their emphasis, largely as a result of its highly eclectic structure. So, with New Age belief, or things that are part of what we might consider New Age, they tend to be eclectic. They tend to draw things from multiple sources. Yes, there's emphasis on spirit. There's a little bit of an emphasis on animism, which is part of shamanism. But, you have people doing crystals and yoga and Reiki and, combining a bunch of things together. And this all kind of started in the 1970s as part of the whole Age of Aquarius movement. The 1970s was a really important time in Western history as far as spirituality came about. There were a lot of things that became popularized, like Wicca. And do we consider Wicca New Age? I don't know. Most people probably would not. So let's look at that for a moment, though. 1970s, really, we can say that shamanism came to Western culture, although it's been around forever, and there are, indigenous cultures within Western culture that have continuously practiced shamanism since prehistory. What we're talking about is sort of like the dominant US culture, the dominant European culture. So dominant Western cultures, shamanism really becomes popularized around the late 1970s and early 1980s. Michael Harner wrote his seminal book on shamanism in, I believe, 1979. And by 1982, we had the Society for Shamanic Practice, and we were churning out teachers of shamanism and all kinds of stuff. Does that make it New Age? I still don't think so, because the practices are not eclectic. They have been kind of stripped down from indigenous practices to remove specific spiritual elements that are that sort of belong to very specific cultures. They take the parts that are in common. So it's not eclectic. The practice has been around for at least tens of thousands of years. Yes, it did become popular during or shortly after really the New Age movement took over. And I kind of view shamanism as a return to our roots in many ways. So my European ancestors were converted to Christianity at some point hundreds of years ago, at the point of a sword, basically removing us from a lot of our connection to nature, connection to spirit, that sort of thing. And then instead the church put in place intermediaries, right? We had to go to priests, who had to go to bishops, who had to go to cardinals, who had to go to the Pope. This giant pyramid scheme, patriarchy placed over everyone. People who were accused of nature-based spirituality, we'll call witchcraft here, burned at the stake, arrested, hung, their lands taken away. Terrible, terrible things happen. Really, really stomped out any sort of shamanic practice. Before that, the Druids were completely wiped out by the Romans. Their sacred groves were cut down and burned. So all of that was destroyed. Pagan temples were in Greece were destroyed, where they were practicing forms of shamanism. The temple at Eleusis, where the Eleusinian, I can never pronounce that correctly, mysteries were practiced by people for thousands of years, over 1,000 years anyway. That was shamanic practice, and that was wiped out. So really a lot of damage was done to many people's connections to their ancestral spiritual heritage during that time. And so there has been a return to that, to get away from the patriarchy, to get away from feeling separated from nature, from feeling separated from each other, from feeling separated from the world in general, and separated from spirit. And so this is, in my opinion, why shamanism, one of the reasons why shamanism has gotten a resurgence in popularity. It's also as a result of crisis. Any sort of global crisis brings about shamanic awakening in people. So we are, as I record this, we're in the middle, or hopefully towards the end, fingers crossed, of a global pandemic, which is a crisis on a global scale. So a lot of people are being called to awaken shamanically. That is to, to practice shamanism, to learn shamanism, to gain from shamanism what it has to offer. So, long story short, I'm going to say no. Shamanism is not a New Age practice. I'm going to agree with my teacher who says shamanism is an old age practice, or an age-old practice. We all have shamanism in our backgrounds. I don't care where you came from. I don't care that your, the past 20 generations of your ancestors were Christian or Jewish or Muslim or what have you. You have shamans in your past, because it was everywhere at all time. So I hope that has been informational. I hope you've learned something. There can be some disagreement about this because definitions are pretty loose. There's not a rigid definition of what New Age is, and the academics don't agree. But that being said, that's my opinion, and I hope hope the information I've given can help you inform your opinion, which you have every right to. Stay happy and healthy, and subscribe to my channel, and I hope to talk to you real soon.